You took everything. Now it's your turn to lose.
The thing about family gatherings is they're like car accidents. You see them coming, but you're powerless to stop the inevitable carnage. I'm sitting at my parents' mahogany dining table, watching my wife Amanda squeeze my brother Derek's hand under the linen tablecloth, and thinking about how spectacularly this Thanksgiving is about to implode. "Aiden, pass the gravy," my mother Patricia says, her voice carrying that particular tone reserved for addressing disappointing children. At 68, she's perfected the art of making simple requests sound like accusations of moral failure. I slide the gravy boat across the polished surface, watching Amanda's perfectly manicured fingers intertwine with Derek's wedding ring, the same wedding ring he wore when he married Lisa 3 years ago, before she caught him with their neighbor's wife and took half his assets in the divorce. "So, Aiden," my father Charles begins, setting down his wine glass with the ceremonial gravity of a judge's gavel. "Your mother and I have been discussing your situation." My situation. That's what we're calling my refusal to bail Derek out of his latest gambling disaster. 6 months ago, he'd blown through $40,000 at the Riverside Casino, then had the audacity to ask me to cover his mortgage payment. When I declined, citing basic common sense and self-preservation, I became the family pariah. "Which situation would that be, Dad?" I ask, cutting into my turkey with surgical precision. "The one where I have a stable job, pay my bills on time, and don't owe money to people who break kneecaps for a living?" Derek shifts uncomfortably, his hand sliding away from Amanda's. "Come on, man, that's not fair." "Fair?" I laugh, the sound bitter as burnt coffee. "You want to talk about fair? Fair would be acknowledging that I've bailed you out 12 times since college. Fair would be admitting that I co-signed your business loan, your car loan, and your first mortgage. Fair would be... Enough." Charles's voice cuts through my rant like a cleaver. "This is exactly why we've made our decision." The room goes silent except for the grandfather clock ticking in the corner. Even Amanda stops pretending to eat, her fork suspended halfway to her mouth. My daughter Sarah, 17 and perpetually angry at the world, looks up from her phone for the first time all evening. My son Kevin, 14 and awkward, pushes his mashed potatoes around his plate like he's building tiny mountains. "We're removing you from the will," Patricia announces, her words delivered with the casual brutality of someone commenting on the weather. "Everything will go to Derek when we're gone." I set down my fork, the metallic clink echoing in the sudden silence. "I see. And what prompted this decision?" "Your selfishness," Derek says, finding his voice now that he's got parental backup. "Your complete inability to help family when they need it most." "Help?" I turn to face him fully, noting how his hairline has receded since his divorce, how his expensive suit can't quite hide the soft belly of a man who's given up on himself. "Is that what we're calling it? Because from where I sit, it looks more like enabling a gambling obsession and subsidizing a lifestyle you can't afford." Amanda clears her throat, a sound I've learned to recognize as her preparation for battle. "Actually, Aiden, since we're having this conversation, there's something I need to tell you too." Here it comes. I've been waiting for this moment for 3 months, ever since I found Derek's cologne on her scarf, since I noticed the way she started working late every Tuesday and Thursday, the same nights Derek claimed to be at his therapy sessions. "I want a divorce," she says, her voice steady and rehearsed. She's practiced this speech, probably in Derek's apartment, probably while wearing significantly less clothing. Sarah drops her phone, the sound of plastic hitting hardwood sharp as a bang. Kevin stops building his potato mountains and stares at his mother with the wide-eyed confusion of a kid watching his world collapse in real time. "Mom," Sarah's voice cracks on the single syllable. "Your father and I..." "We've grown apart," Amanda continues, not meeting my eyes. "I think it's best for everyone if we separate. I've already spoken to a lawyer." Of course she has. Amanda's always been 3 steps ahead in every game we've played, from choosing our first apartment to planning our vacations. She's methodical, calculating, and absolutely ruthless when she wants something. The fact that she wants Derek, my weak, pathetic, gambling-dependent brother, would be insulting if it weren't so predictable. "I suppose you'll be wanting the house," I say, my voice calmer than I feel. "It's only fair," Derek interjects, and I have to admire his timing. "Amanda and the kids need stability." Stability. I repeat the word like I'm tasting something rotten, from the man who lost his house in a poker game. "That was different, was it?" I stand up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're about to lose another house. Mine this time. Patricia slams her hand on the table, making the china jump. That's enough. This is exactly the kind of behavior that led to our decision. You're bitter, Aiden. Bitter and small and incapable of putting family first. Family first, I echo, looking around the table at these people who share my DNA but feel like strangers. Right. So when Derek needs money, it's family first. When Derek needs a place to stay, it's family first. When Derek needs someone to co-sign his loans because his credit is shot to hell, it's family first. But when I need support, when I need someone to have my back, suddenly it's every man for himself. You've never needed help, Charles says, his tone suggesting this is somehow a character flaw. You've always been so self-sufficient. Self-sufficient. Another way of saying they never bothered to check if I was drowning because I was too proud to scream for help. Well, I say, reaching for my jacket on the back of my chair, I guess that self-sufficiency is about to come in handy. Where are you going? Amanda asks. And for a moment I hear something that might be concern in her voice. Or maybe it's just annoyance that I'm not following her script. Home, to pack, since I apparently have until midnight to vacate the premises. Daddy! Kevin's voice is small, scared. It's the first word he's spoken all evening. I look at my son, this awkward, brilliant kid who builds computers in his spare time and reads science fiction novels under his covers with a flashlight. In 6 months, he'll be living with Derek, calling him Dad at baseball games and birthday parties. The thought makes my chest tight. I'll see you soon, buddy, I tell him, and I mean it, even though I have no idea how I'm going to make that promise work. Sarah stands up so fast her chair tips backward. This is so messed up, she shouts, tears streaming down her face. You're all horrible. Daddy's the only one who never lies to us. She runs from the room, her footsteps thundering up the stairs. A door slams somewhere in the distance. Look what you've done, Amanda says, but she's looking at me, not at Derek or my parents or the situation they've all created together. What I've done? I laugh, and it's not a pleasant sound. Lady, I haven't even started. I walk to the front door, past the family photos that line the hallway. Derek's graduation, Derek's wedding, Derek's promotion to regional manager before he got fired for missing too much work. My own achievements are notably absent, but that's nothing new. Aiden, Charles calls after me. Don't do anything you'll regret. I pause with my hand on the doorknob, looking back at this tableau of family dysfunction. Amanda's already moved her chair closer to Derek's. Kevin's staring at his plate like it holds the answers to life's mysteries. Patricia's pouring herself another glass of wine. The only thing I regret, I say, is not seeing this coming sooner. I step out into the cold November air, pulling out my phone as I walk to my car. By the time I reach the end of their driveway, I've made 17 phone calls and sent 43 text messages. My family's phones are about to start ringing, and when they answer, they're going to discover that being self-sufficient has its advantages, especially when you're the one with all the passwords. The Riverside Motel isn't exactly the Four Seasons, but it has two things going for it. It's cheap, and it doesn't ask questions. The carpet is the color of old mustard, the bedspread looks like it survived a small war, and the shower makes sounds like a dying whale. But the Wi-Fi works, and that's all I need for what comes next. I'm sitting on the bed with my laptop open, surrounded by papers, bank statements, and legal documents. The irony isn't lost on me. While Amanda and Derek were planning their romantic betrayal, I was handling all the boring administrative details of our life. Paying bills, managing investments, maintaining insurance policies, filing taxes, all those tedious responsibilities that Amanda found so beneath her. My phone buzzes. Derek's name flashes on the screen for the 15th time in 2 hours. I let it go to voicemail. The thing about being married to someone for 18 years is that you learn their patterns. Amanda's pattern was simple. She wanted the benefits of being an adult without any of the responsibilities. She wanted the nice house, the good credit, the financial security, but she didn't want to know how the sausage was made. So I made the sausage. I handled everything, which means everything is in my name. The house? My name on the deed, because Amanda's credit score was shot when we got married thanks to some creative financial decisions in college. The cars? Both registered to me, both loans in my name. The bank accounts? Joint accounts technically, but I'm the primary holder on all of them. The credit cards, the investment accounts, the kids' college funds, all of it flows through me. Amanda and Derek are about to learn a very expensive lesson about the importance of reading the fine print. My laptop chimes with an incoming email. It's from Janet Morrison, the divorce attorney I consulted 6 months ago when I first suspected Amanda was cheating. Janet's response is exactly what I hoped for. Based on the documentation you've provided, your position is extremely strong. Infidelity is still grounds for fault-based divorce in this state, and given that all marital assets are primarily in your name, you have significant leverage. We should meet as soon as possible. I close the laptop and lean back against the headboard, which creaks ominously under my weight. Through the thin walls, I can hear a couple arguing in the next room about money. The woman's voice is shrill, desperate. The man's voice is tired, defeated. It's like listening to a preview of Derek and Amanda's future. My phone buzzes again. This time it's a text from Amanda. The credit cards aren't working. I type back, "That's weird. Have you tried calling the bank?" 3 dots appear, disappear, appear again. Finally, "Aiden, what did you do?" "Nothing illegal," I respond. "Just exercising my rights as the primary account holder to review our financial situation. You know, like a responsible adult." The dots appear and disappear for a full minute before she responds. "This is childish." Childish would be having an affair with my brother and then expecting me to pay for your divorce lawyer. No response to that one. I get up and walk to the window, pulling back the curtain to look out at the parking lot. It's full of cars that have seen better days, vehicles belonging to people who've made mistakes or had bad luck or both. 6 hours ago, I was living in a 4-bedroom colonial with a 2-car garage and a mortgage payment I could handle. Now I'm here, in a room that smells like disinfectant and broken dreams. But here's the thing they don't understand. I'm not broken. I'm angry, and angry is dangerous. My phone rings. Charles this time. I answer on the 4th ring. "What have you done?" he demands without preamble. "Happy Thanksgiving to you too, Dad." "Don't play games with me, Aiden. Amanda called. She says you've frozen all the accounts." "Not frozen, secured. There's a difference." "This is ridiculous. You're acting like a child." "A child?" I laugh, and it echoes off the motel room walls. "Dad, I'm acting like someone who just discovered his wife has been sleeping with his brother while his parents plan to disinherit him. If this is childish behavior, what exactly would mature behavior look like?" Silence on the other end. Then, "You need to fix this." "Actually, I don't. What I need to do is protect my interest and my children's interests, which coincidentally is exactly what I'm doing." "Aiden, no." The word comes out harder than I intended. For 18 years, I've been the responsible one. The one who pays the bills, handles the problems, cleans up everyone else's messes. And what did it get me? A cheating wife, a gambling addict brother, and parents who think I'm the problem? That's not— It is, Dad. It's exactly that. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to handle this situation the same way I handle everything else. Methodically, legally, and with absolutely no regard for anyone else's feelings. Just like you taught me. I hang up before he can respond. The couple next door has stopped arguing. Now there's just silence, which somehow feels more ominous than the shouting. I wonder if they've reached some kind of resolution, or if they've just run out of things to say to each other. My phone buzzes with a text from Derek. "We need to talk." I stare at the message for a long moment, then delete it without responding. Derek and I are way past talking. We're in action territory now. I open my laptop again and start making a list. Not a to-do list, a target list. Every person who participated in today's ambush, every person who knew what was coming and said nothing, every person who thought they could humiliate me and walk away unscathed. Amanda's at the top, obviously. Then Derek, then my parents. But there are others. Amanda's best friend Jessica, who's been covering for the affair, Derek's buddy Mike, who's been providing alibis, the whole network of enablers and co-conspirators who thought they were so clever. They have no idea what's coming. I spend the next 3 hours making phone calls, sending emails, and accessing online accounts. By midnight, I've canceled all the credit cards, transferred the emergency funds to a new account, and put fraud alerts on everything else. I've also done something that's going to make tomorrow very interesting for everyone involved. At 12:47 a.m., my phone starts ringing. Amanda again. I let it go to voicemail, then listen to the message. "Aiden, this is insane. You can't just cut us off like this. We have kids to feed, bills to pay. I know you're angry, but this isn't the way to handle it. Call me back. Please." The desperation in her voice is almost satisfying. Almost. I delete the message and turn off the phone. Tomorrow is going to be a very long day, and I need sleep. But first, I have one more call to make. Morrison Law Office, this is Janet. Janet, it's Aiden Locke. I know it's late, but I wanted to let you know that things have accelerated. I'm ready to file. What happened? I tell her about Thanksgiving dinner, about the ultimatum, about Amanda's announcement. Janet listens without interrupting, occasionally making small sounds of professional interest. Well, she says when I finish, they certainly made this easy for us. Infidelity, abandonment, and they've essentially admitted everything in front of witnesses. How do you want to proceed? Aggressively, I say. I want full custody. I want the house, and I want her to pay support. That's ambitious, but given the circumstances, not unreasonable. I'll start drafting the papers tonight. We can file first thing Monday morning. Perfect. And Janet? I want this to be public. I want everyone to know exactly what she did. There's a pause. Aiden, I understand you're angry, but I'm not angry, I interrupt. I'm done. There's a difference. After I hang up, I lie back on the questionable bedding and stare at the water-stained ceiling. Somewhere across town, Amanda and Derek are probably trying to figure out how to pay for groceries without access to my credit cards. My parents are probably wondering if they made a mistake. My kids are probably confused and scared and angry. I should feel guilty about that last part. I should be worried about Sarah and Kevin, about how this is affecting them. And I am worried, but not enough to back down. They need to learn that actions have consequences, that betrayal comes with a price. Better they learn it now from me than later from the world. My phone, which I thought I'd turned off, buzzes one more time. A text from an unknown number. This isn't over. I smile in the darkness of the motel room. They're right about that, at least. It's just getting started. Monday morning arrives gray and cold, like the weather gods decided to match my mood. I'm sitting in my rental car, a practical Honda Civic that's about as far from my usual BMW as you can get, watching Amanda drop the kids off at school. She's driving Derek's beat-up Camry because apparently my BMW is registered in my name too. Funny how these details matter when the foundation starts cracking. Sarah slams the car door hard enough to rattle the windows. Even from 50 yards away, I can see she's furious. Kevin gets out more slowly, his backpack slung over one shoulder, looking around like he's expecting me to materialize from behind a tree. I want to go to them, to explain that none of this is their fault, that I'm fighting for them, not against them. But Janet advised me to maintain distance until the custody hearing. Let their mother's poor choices speak for themselves, she said. Don't give her ammunition. So I sit in my rental car and watch my children walk into school, probably wondering why their father has suddenly vanished from their lives. My phone buzzes. A text from Jim Patterson, my neighbor and the closest thing I have to a friend in this mess. Saw the moving truck at your house. You okay? Jim's a retired cop who moved in next door 3 years ago after his wife died. He's got the kind of steady, no BS personality that comes from dealing with humanity's worst impulses for 30 years. If anyone can appreciate the strategic value of what I'm doing, it's Jim. I text back, better than okay. Coffee later? Sure, usual place. The usual place is Murphy's Diner, a greasy spoon that serves coffee strong enough to wake the dead and minds its own business. Jim's already there when I arrive, sitting in a corner booth with his back to the wall. Old cop habits die hard. You look like hell, he says as I slide into the seat across from him. Charming as always. I signal the waitress for coffee, but accurate. So what's the real story? All I know is what Amanda told the neighbors. Something about you having a breakdown and abandoning your family. I almost choke on my coffee. She said what? Oh, it gets better. According to her version, you've been struggling with depression and anger issues for months. She's been trying to help you, but you refused treatment. Finally, you snapped at Thanksgiving dinner and stormed out, leaving her and the kids to fend for themselves. The audacity is breathtaking. Even for Amanda, this is impressive. And people believed that? Some did. Others are asking questions, like why Derek's car is in your driveway every night if you're the one who left. I lean back in the booth, processing this information. Amanda's always been good at controlling narratives, at presenting herself as the sufferer in every situation, but she's overplayed her hand this time. Jim, I need a favor. He raises an eyebrow. Legal favor or the other kind? The legal kind, mostly. I explain the real situation, the affair, the ambush at Thanksgiving, the financial maneuvering. Jim listens without judgment, occasionally nodding or asking clarifying questions. When I finish, he's quiet for a long moment. So, what do you need from me? Documentation. You've got a good camera, and you know how to use it without being obvious. I need proof of what's really going on at my house. Surveillance on your own property. That's creative. Is it legal? Technically, yes, it's your house, your property. You have every right to monitor what happens there, especially if you suspect criminal activity. Criminal activity, Jim grins, and for a moment I see the cop he used to be. Infidelity is still a crime in this state, even if it's rarely prosecuted. And if Derek's gambling debts are as bad as you say, there might be other interesting visitors to document. We spend the next hour planning what Jim diplomatically calls information gathering. By the time we leave Murphy's, I'm feeling something I haven't felt since Thanksgiving: hope. That afternoon, I'm in my new temporary apartment, a furnished one-bedroom that's clean, quiet, and completely impersonal, when Janet calls with an update. I filed the papers this morning, she says. Amanda should be served by end of business today. How did she react to the custody motion? She doesn't know about it yet. The process server will deliver everything at once: divorce papers, custody motion, restraining order, and the motion to freeze joint assets pending resolution. Restraining order? Standard procedure in contested custody cases. It prevents either party from taking the children out of state or making major decisions without court approval. Given that Amanda's already threatened to leave, it seemed prudent. I can hear papers rustling in the background. There's something else, Aiden. Amanda's attorney called this morning. She hired someone already? Richard Steinberg. He's expensive, which is interesting given her current financial situation. I don't need to ask who's paying Steinberg's retainer. Derek might not be able to cover his gambling debts, but apparently he can afford a lawyer for his mistress. What did Steinberg want? To negotiate. He claims Amanda's willing to be reasonable about asset division if you drop the infidelity allegations and agree to joint custody. And I told him we'd consider any reasonable offer, but that the infidelity allegations are well documented and non-negotiable. Good. What's our timeline? Temporary custody hearing is scheduled for next Friday. Full divorce proceedings will take longer, but if we can establish temporary custody and support arrangements, that gives us significant leverage. After Janet hangs up, I sit in my generic apartment and think about leverage. For 18 years, Amanda had all the leverage: the kids, the house, the social connections. She made the decisions about where we lived, where the kids went to school, how we spent our money. I went along with it because it seemed easier, because I thought that's what marriage was supposed to be. Now the leverage has shifted, and she doesn't know how to handle it. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. You're destroying your own family. I stare at the message for a moment, then screenshot it before responding. I'm saving my family from people who would destroy it. No response. At 6:30 p.m., Jim calls. Got something you need to see. I drive to his house where he's set up a laptop on his kitchen table. On the screen is a video feed from a camera positioned to watch my front door. This was about an hour ago, he says, hitting play. On the screen, I watch Derek's Camry pull into my driveway. Derek gets out first, then Amanda. But there's a third person in the car, a woman I don't recognize. Who's that? I ask. According to the license plate, the car belongs to Maria Santos. She works for a private investigation firm downtown. I watch as the three of them approach my front door. Derek has a key, of course he does, and they go inside. 20 minutes later, they come out carrying boxes. What's in the boxes? Hard to tell from this angle, but they made 3 trips. Whatever they're taking, it's not clothes. We watch the rest of the footage in silence. After they load the boxes into Derek's car, Amanda and the investigator have what looks like an intense conversation on the front porch. The investigator takes photos of the house, the yard, even the mailbox. She's building a case, Jim says. For what? Abandonment, most likely. She's documenting that you left the family home, that Derek had to step in to help with the kids. The boxes probably contain anything that might make you look bad. Financial records, personal items, anything that supports her narrative. I feel a cold rage building in my chest. They're in my house, going through my things, building a case against me. Yeah, and it's all perfectly legal since Amanda still has a right to access the marital home. But Derek doesn't. Jim grins. No, he doesn't. That's trespassing, and now we have it on video. We watched the footage 2 more times, with Jim pointing out details I missed, how Derek keeps looking over his shoulder, how Amanda directs the investigator to specific areas of the house, how they're careful not to take anything that's obviously valuable. They're smart, Jim admits, but not smart enough. What do you mean? Check this out. He rewinds to a moment when Derek is carrying a box to the car. See how he's struggling with that box? Whatever's in there is heavy. But look at Amanda, she's carrying a similar box like it weighs nothing. I lean closer to the screen. He's right. Derek's box requires 2 hands and careful maneuvering. Amanda's identical box is carried casually in 1 hand. So either Amanda's stronger than she looks, or her box is empty. They're staging evidence, making it look like they're removing more than they actually are. The implications hit me like a physical blow. They're going to claim I cleaned out the house before I left, that I took everything valuable and left them with nothing. That would be my guess. Good thing we have video proof of what actually happened. I watched the footage 1 more time, memorizing every detail. Amanda's face when she directs the investigator, Derek's nervous glances, the careful choreography of their deception. Jim, I need another favor. I'm listening. How would you feel about doing a little more surveillance, the kind that might catch them in the act of something really stupid? His grin widens. Son, I thought you'd never ask. The thing about surveillance is that it's 90% boredom and 10% pure adrenaline. I'm learning this firsthand as I sit in Jim's pickup truck at 7 a.m. on Wednesday morning, watching Derek's apartment through binoculars that probably cost more than my monthly rent at the motel. Movement, Jim says quietly, adjusting the telephoto lens on his camera. Derek's front door opens, and he steps out wearing yesterday's clothes and the kind of haggard expression that comes from not sleeping. He looks around nervously before walking to his car, a paranoid habit he's developed since I froze the bank accounts. Where do you think he's going? I ask. Probably to your house. Amanda texted him 20 minutes ago. I don't ask how Jim knows about Amanda's text messages. Some things are better left unquestioned. We follow Derek at a distance, Jim's police training evident in the way he maintains perfect spacing and uses other vehicles for cover. Derek drives like a man with something to hide, checking his mirrors constantly, taking unnecessary turns, stopping at yellow lights. He's scared, Jim observes. Good, he should be. Derek pulls into my driveway, at my house, where my children are getting ready for school. The casual violation of it makes my jaw clench. Through the telephoto lens, we watch Derek let himself in with his key. 5 minutes later, Amanda appears at the front door, still in her bathrobe. They have what looks like an argument on the front porch, with Amanda gesturing angrily and Derek shaking his head. Trouble in paradise, Jim murmurs, snapping photos. The argument escalates. Amanda shoves Derek hard enough to make him stumble backward. He says something that makes her face go white with rage. She slaps him. Well, that's interesting, Jim says, the camera clicking rapidly. Derek gets back in his car and drives away, leaving Amanda standing on the porch in her bathrobe, looking like she wants to hit something else. A few neighbors have come out to get their morning papers, and I can see them watching the drama with undisguised interest. Amanda's always been good at keeping up appearances, I tell Jim. This is new. Stress makes people sloppy, and desperate people make mistakes. We follow Derek to his next stop, a pawn shop on the south side of town. He's inside for 15 minutes, coming out with an envelope that he immediately stuffs into his jacket pocket. Think he's selling something? Jim asks. Or getting a loan from someone who doesn't check credit scores. Derek's third stop is the most interesting. A strip mall office with a sign that reads, Quick Cash Loans. It's the kind of place that charges interest rates that would make a mob boss blush. Now we're getting somewhere, Jim says. While Derek's inside, Jim gets out and walks casually past his car, returning with a small device that he attaches to his keychain. GPS tracker, he explains. Military grade. Now we'll know everywhere he goes. Derek emerges from the loan office looking relieved but shaky. He checks his phone, then drives directly to Riverside Casino, the same place where he lost $40,000 6 months ago. Unbelievable, I mutter. He borrowed money to gamble. Obsession's a hell of a thing, Jim says. Let's see how this plays out. We park across from the casino and settle in to wait. Through the windows, I can see Derek at a blackjack table, playing with the desperate intensity of a man trying to solve his problems with cards and luck. My phone buzzes. A text from Amanda. The kids are asking about you. What should I tell them? I stare at the message for a long moment, then type back, "Tell them the truth, that their mother is sleeping with their uncle and their father is fighting for custody." 3 dots appear, disappear, appear again. Finally, "You're sick." I'm honest. There's a difference. No response to that. 2 hours later, Derek stumbles out of the casino empty-handed and hollow-eyed. The GPS tracker shows him driving aimlessly around town for an hour before finally returning to his apartment. "He lost it all," Jim says. "Whatever he borrowed, it's gone." How can you tell? Body language. The way he's walking, the way he keeps checking his phone. That's a man who just realized he's in deeper than he thought. We're proven right an hour later when Derek's apartment door opens and 2 men in expensive suits walk out. They don't look like social workers. "Friends of his?" Jim asks innocently. "I doubt it." The men get into a black SUV with tinted windows and drive away. Derek doesn't come out of his apartment for the rest of the day. That evening, I'm back at my temporary apartment when Janet calls with an update. "Amanda's attorney filed a counter motion," she says. "They're claiming you abandoned the family and are now maltreating them through proxies." Proxies? They have photos of you and an unidentified man conducting surveillance on the family home. I look out my window at Jim's truck in the parking lot. How do they know about Jim? Good question. Either they spotted you, or they have their own surveillance operation running. The implications are unsettling. Amanda's always been thorough, but hiring a private investigator suggests a level of planning that goes beyond simple infidelity. What's our response? We stick to the facts. You have every right to monitor your own property, especially given credible concerns about Derek's gambling debts, potentially putting the children at risk. Speaking of which, I have some new information about those debts. I tell Janet about Derek's visits to the pawn shop and loan office, about the casino, about the men in suits. She listens with professional interest. "This is good," she says when I finish. "If we can document that Derek's gambling is escalating and that he's potentially brought criminal elements into contact with your children, that strengthens our custody case significantly. How do we document it?" "Leave that to me. I have contacts in law enforcement who can run background checks on Derek's recent associates." After Janet hangs up, I sit in my apartment and think about escalation. Every move I make prompts a counter move from Amanda and Derek. Every piece of evidence I gather, they try to counter with evidence of their own. It's like a chess game, where the stakes are my children's future. My phone buzzes with a text from Jim. "You need to see this. Now." I drive to Jim's house, where he's set up multiple monitors showing different camera angles of my neighborhood. On the main screen, I can see Derek's car in my driveway again, but this time there are 2 other vehicles, a van with no windows and another SUV. "How many people are in there?" I ask. "At least 6. They've been inside for 2 hours. On the screen, I watch strangers moving through my house carrying boxes and equipment. It's like watching a burglary in slow motion. What are they taking? Everything. Furniture, electronics, personal items. They're cleaning the place out. The rage that's been building for days finally boils over. They can't do this. It's my house. Technically, it's the marital home, and Amanda has legal access. But Derek and his friends? That's breaking and entering. Can we stop them? Jim's smile is carnivory. "Son, I was hoping you'd ask." He picks up his phone and dials 911. "Yes, I'd like to report a burglary in progress." 20 minutes later, 3 police cars pull up to my house with lights flashing. The van and SUV disappear out the back alley, but Derek's car is still in the driveway when the officers knock on the front door. We watch through the telephoto lens as Amanda answers the door in her bathrobe, clearly trying to look like the innocent homeowner. The officers are polite but persistent, asking questions and taking notes. Derek appears in the doorway, and I can see him trying to explain his presence to the officers. One of the cops is writing in his notebook while Derek gestures frantically. "What happens now?" I ask. Now we wait and see if Derek's story holds up under scrutiny. But either way, we've got them on video with people who just fled a police investigation. My phone buzzes. Amanda calling. I answer on the 4th ring. "What did you do?" she hisses. "I reported suspicious activity at my house, like a responsible homeowner. Those were movers, Aiden. You were just what? Stealing my belongings with the help of Derek's gambling buddies?" Silence on the other end. "Here's what's going to happen, Amanda. You're going to put everything back exactly where you found it. You're going to change the locks and give me the only key. And you're going to explain to the children why strangers were going through their father's things. I can, and I will. because unlike you and Derek, I actually understand how the law works. I hang up before she can respond. On the monitor, I watch the police officers finish their investigation and drive away. Derek's car is still in the driveway, but now there's a police report documenting his presence during a suspected burglary. Think that'll be enough? Jim asks. It's a start, but they're not going to give up easily. Good, Jim says, checking his camera equipment. I was starting to get bored. Looking at the monitors, watching my house like it's a crime scene, I realize we've crossed a line. This isn't just about divorce and custody anymore. It's about survival. Mine, my children's, and whatever's left of the life I thought I was building. Amanda and Derek wanted a war. Now they're going to get one. Friday morning arrives with the kind of crisp clarity that makes everything look sharper, more defined. I'm standing outside the county courthouse in my best suit, the navy blue one Amanda always said made me look like an undertaker, watching lawyers and litigants stream up the stone steps like soldiers heading into battle. Janet meets me at the security checkpoint carrying a briefcase that looks heavy enough to contain actual ammunition. Ready for this? She asks. As ready as someone can be for having their life dissected in public. Remember what we discussed. Let me do the talking unless the judge asks you a direct question. And whatever happens, don't react visibly to anything Amanda or her attorney says. The courtroom is smaller than I expected, with wood paneling that's seen better decades, and fluorescent lighting that makes everyone look slightly jaundiced. Amanda's already seated at the plaintiff's table with Richard Steinberg, her attorney. She's wearing a conservative black dress and minimal makeup, the grieving wife costume. Derek's not here, which is interesting. Either Steinberg advised him to stay away, or he's dealing with more pressing concerns from his new creditors. Judge Patricia Hoffman enters, and we all rise. She's a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and the kind of no-nonsense expression that suggests she's seen every variety of human stupidity and isn't impressed by any of it. Be seated, she says, settling behind the bench with the efficiency of someone who has 3 more cases after this one. This is a hearing for temporary custody and support in the matter of Locke versus Locke. Mr. Steinberg, you may proceed. Steinberg stands and launches into what can only be described as a performance. According to his version of events, I'm a controlling, emotionally abusive husband who abandoned my family in a fit of rage after being confronted about my behavior. He paints Amanda as the long-suffering wife who tried everything to save the marriage before finally accepting that divorce was the only option. Your Honor, Steinberg says, his voice dripping with practiced sympathy. Mrs. Locke has been forced to rely on the kindness of family members just to keep food on the table and maintain some stability for the children. Mr. Locke has cut off all financial support in a vindictive attempt to force his wife into an unfavorable settlement. He presents a stack of documents, photos of Amanda looking distraught, statements from neighbors about my erratic behavior, financial records showing the frozen accounts. Mrs. Locke is not asking for anything unreasonable, Steinberg continues. She simply wants temporary support sufficient to maintain the children in their family home, and shared custody arrangements that prioritize the children's best interests over their father's wounded pride. When he sits down, Judge Hoffman turns to Janet. Miss Morrison? Janet stands and opens her briefcase. Your Honor, Mr. Steinberg has presented a compelling fiction, but the facts tell a very different story. She places a photograph on the evidence table, one of Jim's surveillance photos showing Amanda and Derek embracing on the front porch. Mrs. Locke has been conducting an extramarital affair with her husband's brother, Derek Locke, for approximately 6 months. This affair was revealed to Mr. Locke at a family gathering, where he was simultaneously informed that he was being disinherited and that his wife was filing for divorce. More photographs follow, Derek's car in the driveway at various times, the 2 of them entering and leaving the house together, the argument on the porch. Rather than abandoning his family, Mr. Locke removed himself from an untenable situation and immediately took steps to protect both his interests and his children's interests. The frozen accounts were a necessary measure to prevent Mrs. Locke and her paramour from dissipating marital assets. Judge Hoffman examines the photographs with the detached interest of someone reading a grocery list. Mr. Steinberg, do you have a response to these allegations? Steinberg's composure slips slightly. Your Honor, my client's personal relationships are not relevant to the question of child custody and support. Mr. Locke is attempting to deflect attention from his own abandonment of his responsibilities as a father. On the contrary, Janet interjects, Mr. Locke's concerns about his brother's influence on his children are entirely relevant, particularly given Mr. Derek Locke's recent criminal activities. She produces another set of documents, police reports, casino records, loan documents that Jim's law enforcement contacts somehow obtained. Derek Locke has accumulated significant gambling debts and has recently borrowed money from unlicensed lenders. 3 days ago, he was present during a suspected burglary at the family home, an incident that required police intervention. Amanda's face goes white. Steinberg looks like he's swallowed something unpleasant. Judge Hoffman leans forward. Miss Morrison, are you alleging that children were present during this incident? No, Your Honor. The children were at school, but the incident demonstrates the kind of criminal element that Mrs. Locke's relationship with Derek Locke has brought into their lives. Objection, Steinberg says weakly. This is character assassination, not evidence. Mr. Steinberg, Judge Hoffman says dryly, this is a family court hearing, not a criminal trial. Character is exactly what we're here to assess. Miss Morrison, do you have additional evidence? Janet produces a thick folder. Your Honor, we have documented evidence of Mrs. Locke's financial irresponsibility, her attempts to alienate the children from their father, and her ongoing relationship with a man who poses a potential danger to those children. She spreads out bank statements, credit card bills, and transcripts of text messages. Mrs. Locke has consistently lived beyond the family's means, accumulating debt that Mr. Locke was unaware of. She has told the children that their father abandoned them while simultaneously preventing him from contacting them, and she has allowed Derek Locke unlimited access to the family home, despite knowing about his gambling obsession and criminal associations. Judge Hoffman spends several minutes reviewing the documents. The courtroom is silent, except for the whisper of turning pages and the distant sound of traffic outside. Finally, she looks up. Mrs. Locke, I'm going to ask you some direct questions, and I want direct answers. Are you currently in a romantic relationship with Derek Locke? Amanda looks at Steinberg, who nods reluctantly. Yes, Your Honor. How long has this relationship been ongoing? About 4 months. Were you engaged in this relationship while still living with your husband? A longer pause. Yes. Are you aware of Derek Locke's gambling activities? Yes, but he's getting help. What kind of help? Amanda looks lost. He said he was going to therapy. Judge Hoffman makes a note. Mr. Locke, I have some questions for you as well. I stand up. Yes, Your Honor. Why didn't you attempt to work out these marital problems through counseling or mediation before taking such drastic financial measures? It's a fair question, and I've been preparing for it. Your Honor, I discovered the affair 6 months ago, but chose not to confront it immediately, hoping it would end on its own. During that time, I suggested marriage counseling twice. My wife refused both times, saying our problems weren't serious enough to require professional help. When I discovered the extent of her financial deception and was ambushed with divorce papers at a family gathering, I realized that negotiation was not an option. Do you believe you can co-parent effectively with Mrs. Locke given the current level of animosity? Your Honor, I want what's best for my children. If Mrs. Locke is willing to prioritize their welfare over her relationship with my brother, I'm willing to work with her. But I cannot allow my children to be exposed to the instability and potential danger that Derek Locke represents. Judge Hoffman nods and makes more notes. I'm going to take a 15-minute recess to review these materials. When we return, I'll issue my ruling on temporary custody and support. The recess feels like 15 hours instead of 15 minutes. Amanda and Steinberg huddle together, their conversation growing increasingly heated. At one point, Amanda starts crying and Steinberg has to hand her tissues. Janet and I sit in silence. There's nothing left to say. We've presented our case, and now it's up to Judge Hoffman to decide whether my children will continue living with their adulterous mother and her gambling-dependent boyfriend, or whether they'll have a chance at stability with me. When court reconvenes, Judge Hoffman's expression is unreadable. I've reviewed all the evidence presented today, and I'm prepared to issue my ruling on temporary arrangements pending the final divorce decree. She looks directly at Amanda. Mrs. Locke, while I understand that marriages sometimes fail and people form new relationships, the timing and circumstances of your affair show a concerning lack of judgment. More troubling is your apparent willingness to expose your children to someone with serious obsession and legal problems. Amanda's crying harder now, but Judge Hoffman continues without sympathy. Mr. Locke, while your financial maneuvers were aggressive, they appear to have been both legal and necessary to protect marital assets from dissipation. She shuffles her papers. Therefore, I'm awarding temporary primary custody to Mr. Locke, with supervised visitation for Mrs. Locke pending resolution of her housing situation and her relationship with Derek Locke. The words hit like a physical blow. Amanda gasps audibly. Steinberg starts to stand, then sits back down. Furthermore, Mrs. Locke will pay temporary child support in the amount of $800 per month, and she is enjoined from allowing Derek Locke any contact with the minor children pending further court order. Judge Hoffman bangs her gavel. This court is adjourned. As people file out of the courtroom, Amanda turns to look at me with an expression of pure hatred. This isn't over, she whispers. She's right about that. But for the first time since Thanksgiving, I feel like I might actually win. The house feels different when you're living in it legally instead of hiding from it. I'm standing in my kitchen again, making coffee and watching Sarah and Kevin eat breakfast like normal teenagers instead of casualties of a custody war. It's been 2 weeks since the court hearing, 2 weeks of slowly rebuilding something that resembles a family. Dad, Kevin says, not looking up from his cereal. Mom called again last night. What did she say? Same thing as always. That she's sorry, that she misses us, that Uncle Derek's not living with her anymore? Sarah snorts. Yeah, right. I saw his car there yesterday when I rode my bike past the apartment. I pause in the act of pouring coffee. You rode past her apartment? Maybe. Sarah's defensive now, the way she gets when she thinks she's in trouble. I just wanted to see where she was living. The apartment is a 2-bedroom unit in a complex that's seen better decades. Amanda's living there with Derek, despite the court order prohibiting his contact with the children, despite her claims that the relationship is over. Some people never learn. Sarah, I know you're curious, but I'm not curious, she interrupts. I'm angry. She chose him over us, and now she wants us to feel sorry for her because she has to live in some crappy apartment. Kevin looks up from his cereal. Do you think she'll ever come back? It's a question I've been dreading, because the honest answer is complicated. Amanda could come back. If she ends her relationship with Derek, if she gets her finances in order, if she proves to the court that she can prioritize her children over her personal desires. But that would require her to admit she was wrong. And Amanda has never been good at admitting mistakes. I don't know, buddy. But what I do know is that you and Sarah are safe here. And that's what matters most. My phone buzzes with a text from Jim. You need to see the news. I turn on the television and flip to the local morning show. The anchor, a woman with perfectly styled hair and a practiced expression of concern, is standing outside the Riverside Casino. Federal investigation into illegal gambling operations has resulted in multiple arrests, including several individuals with ties to organized crime. Among those arrested was Derek Locke, a local man who allegedly served as a go-between for illegal sports betting operations. The coffee cup slips from my hand, shattering on the kitchen floor. Sarah and Kevin both look up, startled. Dad? Kevin's voice is small. On the screen, there's footage of Derek being led away in handcuffs, his face hidden behind his jacket. The reporter continues. Locke was allegedly recruited by the gambling ring after accumulating significant personal debts. Federal agents say he was paid to identify other potential sufferers with gambling problems. I grab the remote and turn off the television before the kids can see more. Was that Uncle Derek? Sarah asks. There's no point in lying. They'll find out eventually, and I've promised myself to be honest with them about everything. Yes, it looks like Derek's gambling problems were worse than we thought. Kevin pushes his cereal around the bowl. Is Mom going to be arrested too? No, buddy. Mom didn't do anything illegal. She just made some bad choices about who to trust. But even as I say it, I'm wondering about the implications. Amanda's been living with Derek, sharing expenses, possibly sharing information. If Derek was working with organized crime figures, what else might he have been involved in? My phone rings. Janet Morrison. Aiden, I assume you've seen the news? Just now. What does this mean for the custody case? It means Amanda's credibility just took a significant hit. She's been living with someone who was actively involved in criminal activities while claiming she was trying to rebuild her life. Can we use this? We don't need to. The court will take judicial notice of Derek's arrest, and Amanda's attorney will have to explain why his client continued a relationship with someone under federal investigation. After Janet hangs up, I sit at the kitchen table and try to process what this means. Derek's arrest validates everything I've been saying about the danger he posed to my children. But it also means Amanda is completely alone now. No Derek, no family support, no financial resources. For a moment, I almost feel sorry for her. The moment passes. At noon, my doorbell rings. Through the peephole, I can see Amanda standing on my front porch, looking smaller and more fragile than I've ever seen her. She's wearing jeans and a sweater that have seen better days, and her hair is pulled back in a simple ponytail. Gone is the polished, manipulative woman who announced she wanted a divorce at Thanksgiving dinner. I open the door, but don't invite her in. Hello, Amanda. Aiden, please, we need to talk. The children are at school. Whatever you have to say, you can say it to me. She looks past me into the house. Our house. The house where we raised our children together for 15 years. Can I come in? Just for a few minutes? Against my better judgment, I step aside and let her enter. She walks into the living room and looks around like she's seeing it for the first time. You redecorated. I put things back the way they were before you and Derek started remodeling with other people's belongings. She flinches at the mention of Derek's name. Aiden, I know you probably think I got what I deserved, but I think you made choices and now you're dealing with the consequences. There's a difference. She sits down on the couch without being invited, and I notice her hands are shaking slightly. I didn't know about Derek's activities. I swear to you, I had no idea he was involved with those people. But you knew about the gambling. Yes, but I thought he was getting help. He said he was going to therapy, that he was dealing with it. And you believed him because it was convenient to believe him. She looks up at me with tears in her eyes. I made mistakes, Aiden. Terrible mistakes. But I'm trying to fix them. How? By continuing to live with Derek even after the court ordered you not to? Her face goes white. How did you... Sarah saw his car at your apartment. Did you really think you could hide it forever? Amanda puts her face in her hands. He had nowhere else to go. His apartment was... There were people looking for him. Dangerous people. I couldn't just throw him out on the street. Yes, you could have. You should have. Because every day you chose to protect Derek was another day you chose him over your children. The words hit her like physical blows. She starts crying in earnest now, the kind of desperate sobs that come from someone who's finally realized how completely they've destroyed their life. I want to come home, she whispers. I want my family back. For 18 years, those words would have been enough. For 18 years, I would have forgiven her, taken her back, pretended that love could overcome any betrayal. But I'm not the same man who sat at that Thanksgiving dinner table 6 months ago. This is my home now, I tell her. Sarah and Kevin's home. You gave up your right to be here when you chose Derek. But the kids need their mother. The kids need stability. They need to know that the adults in their lives will put their welfare first. You've proven that you can't do that. Amanda looks around the room desperately like she's searching for something that will change my mind. What if I leave Derek? What if I get my own place, prove that I can be responsible? Then maybe, eventually, you can have unsupervised visitation. Maybe you can rebuild a relationship with Sarah and Kevin, but you'll never live in this house again, and we'll never be a family again. The finality in my voice seems to break something inside her. She stands up abruptly, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. You've changed, she says. You used to be kind. I used to be naive. There's a difference. She walks to the front door, then turns back one last time. The kids will forgive me eventually. They'll understand that I made mistakes, but that I love them. Maybe they will. But they'll also understand that love isn't enough if it's not backed up by actions, and they'll remember who was there for them when it mattered. After she leaves, I stand in my living room and look at the family photos on the mantelpiece. Pictures of birthday parties and vacations, Christmas mornings and school plays, a visual history of a family that no longer exists. But maybe that's not entirely true. Maybe family isn't about the people who share your DNA or your history. Maybe it's about the people who show up when everything falls apart, who help you rebuild when the foundation cracks. People like Jim, who spent months documenting the truth when everyone else was content to believe lies. People like Janet, who fought for my children when their own mother wouldn't. People like Sarah and Kevin, who are learning to trust again despite everything they have been through. My phone buzzes with a text from Sarah. Dad, can Kevin and I have friends over for dinner Friday? I want to cook. I text back. Of course. What are you making? Spaghetti and meatballs. Kevin's helping with the sauce. I smile, looking around the house that's finally starting to feel like home again. Outside, I can see Jim working in his yard, probably positioning another camera to monitor some new threat. The man takes security seriously, which I appreciate more than he knows. Derek's arrest will make headlines for a few days, then fade into the background noise of other people's disasters. Amanda will eventually find a way to rebuild her life, with or without her children's forgiveness. My parents will continue to live in their mansion, probably wondering how their golden child ended up in federal prison. But Sarah and Kevin will grow up knowing that their father fought for them when it mattered. They'll understand that sometimes the right thing to do is also the hardest thing to do. And maybe, if I'm lucky, they'll remember that love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice you make every day. The doorbell rings again. This time, it's Jim, carrying a bottle of beer and wearing the satisfied expression of someone who's just watched justice prevail. "Thought you might want to celebrate," he says, holding up the beer. "Celebrate what?" Derek's looking at 5 to 7 years federal time. Amanda's been evicted from her apartment for violating the lease terms, and your ex-father-in-law called 3 times asking if you consider letting them back into the kids' lives. I take the beer and twist off the cap. "What did you tell my father-in-law?" "I told him to call you directly, but I may have mentioned that you're not particularly interested in people who only show up when it's convenient for them." We sit on the front porch, drinking beer, and watching the neighborhood go about its daily business. Normal people living normal lives, dealing with normal problems. It's a luxury I'm just starting to appreciate again. "So, what's next?" Jim asks. "Next, I pick up my kids from school. We have dinner together, help with homework, watch a movie. Normal family stuff?" Sounds boring. Boring sounds perfect. As the sun sets behind the trees, I think about the man I was 6 months ago. The one who went along to get along, who kept the peace at any cost, who believed that being a good husband and father meant never fighting back. That man is gone, replaced by someone harder but more honest, someone who understands that sometimes you have to destroy something completely before you can rebuild it properly. Amanda was right about one thing. I have changed. But she was wrong about the kindness. I'm still kind, but now my kindness has boundaries. I still love my family, but now I understand that love without strength is just enabling. And I've learned that sometimes, when you're pushed into a corner, the only way out is to push back twice as hard. The underdog doesn't always lose. Sometimes, when everything is on the line, the underdog is the one who bites back. And sometimes that bite is exactly what everyone needed all along.